Okay.
Great. So we're official. Now, cute name, isn't it? I came up with it years ago. What we're going to do is I want to teach you how to teach presentation skills because I don't care what you're teaching. If you're teaching high school kids, university, if you're teaching face to face, online, business to client, whatever, everybody in the world needs to use presentation skills. But I've been doing this talk now 7 years. And you know what? You know who needs presentation skills too? Teachers. So today I'm going to teach you how to teach it by teaching you. So hopefully you're going to improve and help your students improve. So, just a little laugh to get started, and hopefully there'll be a lot of laughs throughout the evening. And this is so true. Everybody thinks their slides are beautiful. You know what? They ain't. So, a little thing beforehand. Purposely, I've only used PowerPoint and Paint to do this. I didn't use any fancy programs to show you that if you have Windows, you can do all of this now. You don't have to get into expensive programs and everything else. So let's start off. Well, this is a little bit about me. And this is what I do. I'm the joint coordinator for the IATEFL BSIG, the Business English Special Interest. I have Business Language Training Institute. I teach blah, 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 blah. All these things. A little bit hard to figure out who I am from this, isn't it? A little too many things. It's a little too busy. So I'll go back to the old-fashioned way. There. So now you know me, right? No, it's too much information. And this is what we're going to talk about. But first, here's a little bit about me. My favorite breakfast is eggs, bacon, sausage, pancakes, maple syrup, hash browns, coffee, and orange juice. I'm cutting back, so no toast. But over the years, I put on a few too many pounds. So my current breakfast is pineapple juice, some ham, turkey, cheese, little pate, Greek yogurt, cucumber, radish, cherry tomato, olives, and ginger. And if any of you have me on Facebook, you've probably seen my new body for April Fools. It was a joke. All right. So I want you to think back. Now, looking at your faces, all of you are what, about early 20s, I can tell. You know, I'm about 100 years old. Back in my day, we learned math using flashcards. So, they'd hold up one card at a time, we'd work on the math. That's how I learned how to do it. It worked. Do you think it would work if I started holding up multiple flashcards at the same time? No, we can't process all this information at the same time. And this is the point that I'm making. Looking back, the person that I was, I actually remember this election night in 1966. I'm old. TV news used to be simple. Now, what you see on TV, all these pop ups and everything else, you can't even see the news story anymore. Think back to the old days when learning styles were a thing. Think back to everybody's talking about 21st century skills, real skills, soft skills, or what I call things we all do every day. They're nothing new. This was me before I came to IATEFL Poland. Look at me after. God, have I aged. Messenger. This was Messenger when I was a kid. We actually wrote and sent a postcard. Here's Messenger today. This was my search engine. Now we have Google. Most of you are probably too young to know what a party line was, but a party line, I'd pick up the phone and I might be listening in on my neighbor's conversation because we only had one phone number for areas. Now we have party lines again with things like Clubhouse. Remember when technology came to the class and we told everybody, turn it off? And here I am with you and with students in China saying, come on, turn technology on. Turn your camera on. Things have changed. This is how I used to teach. Now I teach like this. This is what a conference used to look like, and hopefully will look like again this September. Now, this is a conference. Hey, that's me. Oh. This used to be the board. Then it filled up with so much information. Then we had the whiteboard. Then the interactive whiteboard. Now we have the online whiteboard. And here's our student board. Remember pop-ups? These used to be the books you opened up. Everything popped up. Now, this is a pop-up. And this is what our students, our learners, people giving presentations, anybody who's dealing with technology is dealing with today. Too much information. And it causes sensory overload. And what sensory overload is, the brain can only take in so much information. Now, if any of you women are married, you know after the first 2 minutes of an argument with your husband, he's shut off. It's sensory overload. And this happens all the time. And what happens? The brain just explodes. We reach, they say, at about 20 minutes, a perceptive limit. And the brain just sort of starts turning off. We shut down, students become distracted, they're unfocused on the tasks. Adults have trouble with social interaction. We have difficulty concentrating, and it comes down to, in the case of teachers, zero learning. In the case of a conference giver, nobody's listening anymore. So for me, it's like the Where's Waldo of learning with what we're doing using the screen. Well, Waldo's right here. And what I'm going to teach you today is as you increase the level of simplicity in your presentation, you're going to improve the effectiveness of what the people actually learn and hear. Okay? You with me? Alexandra, Marlon, Mariana, my 3 brave people, thank you. So, it only takes 3 seconds for your brain to perceive something different. 3 seconds. It's really quick. For instance, if we're reading the paper, it takes 3 seconds for us to read a headline and decide, is that interesting enough to read the whole article? The same concept with what we have on the screen. Would you read the article? Nice typo. Now, media knows this, Facebook, Instagram, advertisers, even supermarkets know this. Everybody in the world knows this, except millennials know it. That's why they're on TikTok and Instagram, Generation Z and A. But you know who doesn't know it? Educators and speakers in many cases. We are a visual society, and we don't take advantage of it the right way. Now, for example, let me see the chat box over here. And what is this? Tell me what you see. Telephone. Okay, so it's kind of an international thing. You know there's a telephone inside. What's this? Exactly. Well, it's either an exit or it might be the entrance to the bathroom on some occasions, but it's an exit. Now, I don't speak Polish, so I don't know. This is either clean up after your dog or give your dog an enema. I never really knew. I have to learn. Somebody here might be able to teach me later. But we are a visual society. We react to visuals much more than we react to the spoken word. What's wrong is we have access to beautiful pictures. We have the ability to make beautiful slides. But the point is, what's the point of this slide? Anybody? One word. I'll give you a couple seconds. What am I trying to get across? Good guess. Brainstorming. The idea of brainstorming, but there's too much, and it's confusing me. And a little thing about Wordle. I hate Wordle. I think Wordle is great if you build it with your students. But to throw up a Wordle like this in front of your class or when you're talking and really expect anybody to see anything, it doesn't work. It's too much information again. Building it, okay, don't get me wrong. Now, even as teachers, we get these cute little pictures. But again, the kids are concentrating on the colors, the picture, how cute it is, and don't hear a word you as the teacher says. And we're even worse as teachers. Think about it. The last minute of class, we realize, we're out of time. Here's the homework. Here's this. Do this. Nobody's paying attention at that point. That's why they don't do their homework. So, things that are distracting, not good. And I do some here, and I admit I use them myself. Animation, things like that, they tend to be very distracting. I recommend that you minimize them. I know that they're cute. Isn't that nice how it comes up? But it's distracting, and it takes away from what people say. And as a result of this, I don't know if any of you use it, but one of the programs, Prezi. If anybody's familiar with Prezi, I made the mistake of saying this in Hungary. I didn't realize that's where it's from. But there's a basic problem with Prezi is it's actually illegal to use in the United States. No, I'm kidding. But it should be. Because if you're familiar with Prezi, Prezi gets you away. I'll show you a little bit of this video. It gets away from the linear part of PowerPoint, and it allows you to move all over the screen. But quite frankly, after about 5 minutes of this, I need to go to the bathroom because I feel sick to my stomach, because this makes me dizzy. And it's actually proven that this doesn't help people remember anything. it's too distracting. So keep that in mind when you're using a lot of movement. Okay? Signposting. If you're familiar with basic speech making 101, they used to teach to do signposting. And what signposting is you announce beforehand what you're going to talk about. Today's listener, they don't have the time for that. Nobody reads the introduction. Nobody reads instructions. Nobody looks at the table of contents. They go right for the meat. So I say, get rid of signposting. And here, I will tell you about what I'm going to tell you. And then I'm going to tell you what it is I'm telling you. Then I'm going to tell you what I've already told you. Then I'll let you ask questions on what I've told you, but you've already missed. And then I'll answer the questions at the end that you'd asked about what I've told you 3 times, but you missed because I lost your attention. This is signposting. No need for it anymore. Go right into it and teach your speakers who are doing public speaking. It's not the way anymore. It doesn't work for today's viewer. And here's the other thing. Where are you? You probably went here. Now, some of you are very smart and you're reading ahead and you're down to come on, why are you still up there? But I'm still talking about the point at here. So what you're hearing me say and what you're looking at are 2 different things. Who do you think's going to win? So in order to keep you on track, I should only see one thing at a time. Now, long quotations. Usually I read this, I'm not going to. But, don't put a quotation on the screen and then sit and read it. If there's something that needs to be read, I at least get somebody else to read it and have people read it themselves, and I would break this up. Because quite frankly, you could have emailed me and it would have saved me time. And, the other thing is that if you're reading something while I'm talking about something else, and as I said, the 2 points don't go together, then somebody's going to lose. All right, who's actually reading it? Anyone? I didn't want you to read it. Okay, if nothing else, I want you to remember this. And normally when I do this live, I'll have you repeat after me. But let me see, at least Marlon and Alexander, I can watch you. Repeat after me. Text plus talk equals nothing. Ready? Great, my 2 camera people did it. When you have text on the screen and you're talking at the same time and they don't reinforce each other, you end up 0 learning and 0 point. Now, I've studied neurolanguage coaching. I studied all this stuff, how short-term memory needs consolidation, repetition. I'm not going to go into any of that. That's a whole nother talk. But what I can tell you is they've done studies when we increase the visual as opposed to the audio, retention lasts longer and accuracy is higher. So having the visuals and the auditory at the same time, there's a winner. And this is what you got to teach your people. Think about it. Back in the old days when I used to actually travel, we go to the airport. We get a ticket. We look at the ticket. It says gate 5. And then we say, okay, seat, whatever. Gate 15, seat 24D. All right, we're at the gate. We go in, we look. Before we walk down the plank, 24D. We get to the door of the plane, 24D. When we sit there and we get in front of the seat, we check again, 24D. Come on, we're teachers. We can't remember a stupid number and letter. We have to look at it 10 times. It's because it's not that important, so we don't consolidate it into long-term memory. And think about this. This is the problem, but it's the problem with the people that we're teaching and are doing talks. Now, here's a quick quiz. Pay attention. Ready, Marlon? All right, in the chat room, what is it? How much could you remember? Just type 1. Good. Okay. Not bad. Let's try it again. Any better? Hopefully the person who said mouse, notice there's not a mouse. Better. Why? Because the picture reinforced what the text was. So now, better memory. Okay, very tall giraffe, an anxious elephant, a hyperactive dog, and a sleeping monkey. Congrats to those of you who got all 4. So, what I'm going to teach you is a single message per slide. Now, people who tell you about the best way to give a presentation is minimize the amount of slides, blah, 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 everything else, all these formula. Now, I teach lawyers all over the world, so I had my lawyers do some research. There is no law anywhere in any country in the world that says you are limited to the amount of PowerPoint slides you use in a talk or a presentation. It doesn't exist. So to those people that say no more than 30 slides, I'm going to show you later. Now, as the slide count increases, so does engagement. Now, when I do this live, you guys you're cheating because you can see how many slides I have here. But when I do this live, normally during a talk at a conference, everybody's on their phone, they're tweeting, they're checking their email, they're checking Facebook. When I do this live, there's no time because the slides are going so quickly, there's no time to turn away. Now, the idea is you want every slide to be making impact. And I mean impact. Every picture should impact the text. Now, where do we get pictures? There's a thing called the rule of 4s. And actually, I had to change the way I did things because I like to take landscape pictures. And I thought beautiful landscapes would be good. MIT did a study of this. And what they found is showing pictures of people is the most memorable. Then familiar scenes, then objects that we're comfortable with, and then landscapes last. So keep this in mind when you're looking for pictures to go on your slides. And keep your diagrams and things simple. For instance, this is a Venn diagram. Everyone's familiar with that? Yeah? This is a Venn diagram. Oh, sorry. So remember, your message should be short, swift, brief, concise, and to the point without being redundant. Oh, I think I was redundant. The idea is we don't need all these words to make the point. All right, I'm going to show you some examples of bad slides. And these are actual slides that I stole from people that were actually doing talks. You know, here's one. Are you going to read the whole thing? Actually, she read the entire slide. I had no idea what she was talking about. And if it couldn't get any worse, it started getting smaller and smaller. She was showing research about community of practice, but she never made her point because we couldn't see anything. Now, I like this. This was here in Gdansk some years back. Yes, you're supposed to have nice white space, but come on, there's a whole slide. Everybody in the auditorium was squinting to read this. You could have used the whole slide. Then we have here's the test results I'd like to show you. Got that? That's how fast it was. You see nothing. This gentleman at a conference here read, I didn't understand anything because I don't speak Polish. You guys probably do. But he basically read his entire presentation on the screen. Then there's too much information. This person was trying to make a point, and you couldn't even read it. It was out of focus, too many words. And you're trying to figure out what it is you're looking at, and he's talking. You got nothing. I love this explanation. You know, it's a good thing they put that red box around the whole thing, so I knew to focus there. You couldn't read anything. So, again, what is it? Very good. They're working. All right. Here's a great slide. You could teach this for probably 5 years. Now, here's what we do. I found this online. We tend to, when we're making slides, we say, oh, so I really need to underline that or make it bold, or it doesn't stick out enough, so I'll make it red, or I'll use some different fonts, or I'll put a cat because everybody loves cats. And we tend to ruin the image. Remember, the whole idea, the picture should reinforce what the point is you're saying. Now, think about it as teachers. The hardest thing I had is teaching engineers, because engineers, think about it, you have to show a whole big thing, and then you have to talk about little details of it. So I thought about it. It's just like us. Here's my daily flow chart. You know, the alarm rings. I'm ready to get up. If it's no, I go through the flow chart. Or I get on with life. Now think about, am I ready to get up? It's just like we teach how to write an essay. If we're teaching our students how to write an essay, do we teach them the conclusion, intro, title, and arguments at the same time? No, we can't. Now we can show them how they go together. But then we should focus in on the first argument and discuss everything for the first argument. And so on for each one, and then go back and show how everything fits together. Okay? So this is the idea. I used 3 slides, but when I needed them focused on the argument, they were focused. Okay? So, If I have to show information, here's too many numbers, too much information, what I want to focus in on is lost. But here's the way I can do it. Take a picture of a magnifying glass and superimpose it. There I've focused in on the numbers I want them to see. Better yet, put a mask over the others and just highlight the important subject matter that they need to see. These are simple tricks you can do with Paint and PowerPoint. But it's much more effective because now they'll remember these numbers, which is what's important. Okay, sometimes we have to show a big picture, but we can focus in on one thing by just doing a blow-up of that. This takes 2 minutes in PowerPoint, but it's effective and they learn from it. As they say, a picture tells 1,000 words. If I want to make a point about intonation. Okay, color. I recommend any time that you, as a teacher, or your students, before they sit down and make any presentation, they look at a color chart. Because colors show emotion. Now, I wanted soothing, so I went with green. I wasn't going after greed. But different colors give you different moods, and we don't want to fight. I look at this all the time and decide, what is my talk about? Am I looking for excitement? Am I looking for them to sit back and think? And I take a look at which colors are most effective. Now, this is a beautiful slide I found online. There's one basic problem here, and I'd ask you, but we don't have time. I can barely read Japan 13%. It's ruined because of bad choice of color. It's a beautiful slide, very effective. But because of a bad color choice, if I was showing this in a live room, you wouldn't be able to read it. Now, are you familiar with shape fill backdrop? I need to show a picture. I put a text on there. The text sort of mix in. All you have to do is fill in the background of the text box and the words stand out. Now, thinking about background, when you're looking at this, I love it when people's cameras are on, because this is what happens when you show a white background. Everybody look at, I'm going to guess, Alexandra or Marlon, if you can see their picture. And watch this. Oh, Alexandra, you saw it there. Look at the difference. I've just lit up her room and I've blinded her at the same time. Staring at a white screen is not good. Thank you, Alexander. You were wonderful. Big round of applause. So, keep in mind, I like to use softer, maybe like pastel colors. Like if you look at Marlon's background, it's like that light blue. That would be a pleasing color for the background of your slides. So you're not going to hurt people's eyes. Now, I've added this week because we've been working online now. Think about it. I'll be honest, my office is here in my bedroom. What you're seeing behind me is actually what's in front of me, which I took a picture of and made it my background, because I really don't think you want to see my bed. So we can blur. Still doesn't look that good. So we can use different backgrounds. But be aware of the quality of the background that you're using, what's in it. Is it going to be distracting? Is it going to make people think, oh God, I wish I was at the beach. Oh, look at that. And I totally don't listen to what people are saying. Or is it in a room? Or the old bookcase? Everybody. I have to be honest. I sit there sometimes during boring webinars and try and figure out what books they have on the bookshelf. So I usually go with this because people are like, oh my God, why so many computers? Join the BSIG, you'll find out. All right, fonts. What you want to do is stick with the standard sans serif fonts. They're much easier to read. If anybody's ever done anything in PowerPoint and then tried to show it, for instance, on Google or on different platforms, they can really mess up the fonts. Stick with standard fonts. They're easy to read. For instance, so easy to read, right? Can you read it? Let me help you with a little color. Disgusting. Doesn't help. So remember, the font itself can also tell a story. And do you want the font distracting from what you're talking about? And yes, it's true. I tell this to all the guys. Size does matter. Get your head out of the gutters. I'm talking about the size of the font. Remember, this is something I see all the time, because when I make the PowerPoint, I'm sitting in front of my computer and I say, oh, look, 24. It's big enough. But remember, this has got to be projected in a big room. I use this because I use minimum of text, 32 if I want it read. Usually I'm between 48 and 66. And this ensures that everybody in the room can read all the text. And one note about PowerPoint. The default in PowerPoint is header big, point small. For me, I actually think that's backwards, that the header should be small, but the point you're trying to make should be bigger. So think about that. Again, we want to make impact. Now, before you do your presentation, here's a list of things you need to find out. And this is what you have to tell your speakers. Are you dealing with a small room, or are you dealing with a gymnasium? This is going to affect a lot of things. Color, size of font, and how much you can actually read on the screen. Great if you can find out the size of the room beforehand. I see this very often. Gee, when I made the PowerPoint, I could read hello back there in the last row easily, but nobody in the room can read it now when I show it. So think of the font size. This is font size 28, and most of you probably think, oh, that's good. It really isn't. Here's font size 48, much easier to read. Think about the screen that you're going to be on. I did a conference once where they had us on 32-inch televisions with 100 people in the room. Nobody could see it. Just the people in the front row. And then I had the small room with a huge screen, so everybody's right on top of it. So do your research as a speaker. Know what the equipment is, where you're going to speak, how many people, know your audience, know everything beforehand. Very important. Seating. you see here, this one's not bad on the left. Think about the classroom. Can the people in the back row see the screen? Or are they looking at the back of somebody's head? Which you see here. On the left is my friend Ari, so I missed all the information at the bottom of every slide. Where here in Hungary, it was great. The screen was up top, so I had a better chance of seeing it. But notice, it was pretty hard to read, and I wasn't that far back. Lighting, as I said before, will make a difference with your choice of color. See if you can find out. Screen ratio. This is important when you're doing this because most of the time people use 16:9, but most universities with old projectors are set at 4:3. And what happens is it'll take your PowerPoint and squish the picture. Or the opposite, it'll stretch it out and make it look even fatter than I actually am. So I actually check where I'm doing my talk first. If I can't get the information, I make two versions of my PowerPoint. One at 16:9, one at 14:3. And I can't do it here, but when you're giving a talk, if you have a laser pointer, you're not playing Pong. I see this all the time. The people, oh, right here. Here's the thing. Go up like this. It drives you crazy. Point. That's it. It's not a game. Please, please, please learn how to use PowerPoint. I see so many people who insist on giving their PowerPoint presentation in this view. This is not a presentation view. This is when you're writing it. So I'm here watching this, and this happens at IATEFL Poland. Happens everywhere. Online, IATEFL, TESOL. People still don't know. You have to start the presentation. Because I'm already bored, so I'm looking at their next slides to see what's coming next. Please learn to start. Embedding. Now, do you know how to embed things into your PowerPoint? We've been using PowerPoint for so many years. It surprises me at how many people still don't know how to do it. Because what they do, they're showing a presentation. Here's present perfectly. Let me show you a movie clip. So, what do? They exit out of the PowerPoint. They see my live screen, maybe something embarrassing. They see me go to YouTube, fumbling around. I show the movie, and then I have to go back to the PowerPoint, go all the way through to the point I was again, just to start off. But all you can do is simply embed the video right into the PowerPoint so it plays automatically. Didn't have to touch a thing. And this is even better if you don't have Wi-Fi or internet connection. Live links. Actually, I didn't even test it today. Let's see if it'll open. It does. Okay? The live link works. But don't always assume that it will. So have a plan B. Take an actual picture of what you were going to show and say, well, at least this will give you an idea. So live links can go right in. If you're playing Cahoots can be right in there. Now, young teachers, know this. Some of us that are over 23, like I am, may not. It's very easy. If you don't know how to do it, send me a message. I'll teach you. So, links. This is another thing. I see this all the time. Oh, and if you'd like a copy of this, here's the link. Got that? Right. Happens all the time. Even this. Now, this is a shortened link. And what I'm going to show you here, bit.ly, Google, tinyURL. They're free. They'll shorten your links. It's better than showing that long link. So there are three good ones. Usually I use tinyURL most of the time. The other one, QR codes. So this way, I can take a picture. Every cell phone made after, 2005, I think, has a QR code reader. If nothing else, you can take a picture of it. All right, so the words that you put on the screen, they should be fast, they should be easy, and they should be focused on what you're talking about. They should be augmenting exactly what I'm saying. Because your goal as a public speaker and a teacher is to show ideas, not just showing slides. But, use your own style. You don't have to be boring just because you're doing any kind of professional talk. Here's minimal. The idea is you have to get to the point, but you want to reinforce the point you're making with the visual that's on the screen. Remember, if we put these two together, retention and accuracy are better. Plus the fact engagement goes up. You can't ask for better than that. Some quick statistics. I'll go real fast here. Split second. And we don't take enough advantage of that. Scientists always say that the brain is kind of like a funnel. The information gets funneled into the brain. I don't think so, especially now that I'm getting older. I think the brain is like a filter, and it says, do I need this? No. And it just takes the important information that I think I really need and filters out all the other garbage. And when the brain does this, basically, we're making a black hole of learning. So nothing's being learned, nothing's being remembered. What's the sense of the talk? Now, going back to the Venn diagram, this is what we need to find. There's good presenters and there's good presentations. And what we're going to teach our students is to find that sweet spot in between, where we have a good presentation and be a good presenter. Here's some of the ways we do it. Plan and organize. I have a million different colors of Post-it notes. Whenever I do this, I plaster the wall with everything that I'm thinking of doing. It's nice because it lets me rearrange before I even sit down and make the PowerPoint or the talk. So planning is everything. remembering that everything we say, we want to imprint on the people that are listening. Please, please, if your computer, if you're using Windows and your spell check is set to Polish, switch it to English before you make a PowerPoint so you see what you spelled wrong. There's nothing worse than being a teacher or a speaker, because I find the mistakes right away, and it's all I can look at for the next 5 minutes. And so check your spelling. Be aware of what you're trying to cover. Don't bite off more than you can chew. The thing is, just cover what you can. Know your timing. Know how much time you have left. I know I have 9 minutes left. So know where you are. Know your material. PowerPoint is not a script, and people use it. The picture here should trigger something in my brain that I've memorized, so I know what to say. Practice, 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 practice. Record yourself. You'd be amazed watching yourself after recording. You find out all the stupid things like, oh, you keep scratching your nose, or you're jumping around like you have to go to the bathroom. Have them video themselves. Practice on others. If you have to, buy your friends drinks and practice in front of them. If I'm doing a plenary and this is my future, I'm going to get a group of friends and say, what do you think? I don't care what you are. If you're a teacher, if you work in a corporation, if you're a student, at some point you're going to have to give a presentation. Everybody will give presentations. So they need good presentation skills, and they don't want to turn into a presentation that kills. So, we don't want this in the audience. We want this. Everybody clapping at the end. So, what's my breakfast? Type in the chat room. What's my favorite breakfast, or what's the one that I eat? Either one. Just some of the things you saw. Pancakes, ham and fruit, pancakes, sausages. Good. Do you realize that for 53 minutes, look at how much information that's totally worthless to you, you remembered. When I do this, almost everybody gets almost everything. Why? Unless you're planning on making me breakfast, which is the best meal of the day, you don't need that information. The visual is what helped to reinforce this. And that's to show how effective. Remember, show ideas, not just slides. And here's a little trick. I'm not going to do it because at the end of a talk, I took some screenshots of some of my slides. And I'm going to ask you, Alexandra, can you turn on your mic? Does she have the ability?
Yep.
Oh, good. What was my point here at Text Plus Talk?
Yeah, when you just text, when you put too much text and you are talking at the same time trying to just explain everything, there will be non-understanding from the audience because it's just too much information and it's just too much impulses and too much impact.
Perfect. Let's see. Mariana, what was the point of the encyclopedias? If you can, yep.
Well, if we are going to include some kind of information from an encyclopedia or dictionary, we have to be sure that it will be easy to read from the point where the audience is sitting. I mean,
And there's no law of how many slides you can use anywhere in the world. Okay? So, great. Thank you. So,
you're
this is a
welcome.
little trick you can use to see how much the audience was paying attention, but it's also using a visual to, oh, yeah, look at all that stuff we talked about. Oh, I don't remember the beer. I cut that out. All right. Good. So, anybody have an idea? How many slides did I use? Yeah, you saw it. Yeah, you'd be amazed. You can see it on the screen. It's 224. When I do this live, people usually say, oh, 30, 50. They don't realize I've just done 224 slides. Did it feel like that many? But it made its point, didn't it? And hopefully you were focused on the screen the whole time because it was going so quickly. So, 223. The last one's blank. So, with that, here's me. This is my landing page, robhoward.me. It has everything I do there, all my contact information, or you can use the QR code. Get in touch, find me on Facebook, find me on LinkedIn, join IATEFL Poland. If you're not a member, come to all the IATEFL Poland BSIG events. And I won't tell you, but I have exciting news, which you'll hear later. Thank you. So, any questions, comments? Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the comment. Yes, everybody is doing the same.
Yeah, I'll read the chat afterwards. I wasn't able to do it while I was doing it. But you see, the same way I taught you is the same way you teach your students. It's the same way you teach your speakers. Because you're doing the exact same thing. And keep in mind, we can go into, you're going to teach them English. You're going to teach them how to speak, all of this stuff. The speaking is the easy part. Honestly, having the confidence and having something to back you up is just as important as good English while they're talking. So, any questions? I'll take a look. Is there a maximum number of words per slide? For me, 4 or 5. Usually I like to keep it to 2 or 3. Sometimes it's only 1. Now, there's people out there that say totally different things. There's like the 30, 20, 10 rule that they say. It's like 30 slides. I think it's 20 is the font and 10 words per page. I disagree. The simpler you keep it, the better. I only need 1 word. Remember that intonation. I just need 1 word, intonation, on the screen. And I'll talk about intonation, and the picture will drive home the point. So minimize it. You want them to take a mental picture of it. If there's 200 words on the screen, they can't. Good. Thank you, Nada. Any other questions? Any comments? Turn on your cameras. Say hello. Let me see your smiling faces. I don't know these people. There we
Okay,
go.
I will say something at the end. Since everybody considered it to be an excellent, wonderful, outstandingly fascinating presentation, I encouraged my colleagues who have been participating in this webinar to use the set of slides from your webinar, but to use the recording of the webinar while teaching our students. And in fact, I also admitted in the chat box that this is in fact what I myself am going to do, to make it available to my students to watch it on their own, because there is absolutely everything here. Yes, absolutely. It's so well conceived of that you've really created this wow effect.
Thank you. It's kind of funny. A very good friend of mine, he specializes in presentations. And when I first did this in IATEFL back in 2015, he was in the room. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, "You just broke every single rule of giving presentations." And he said, and it was brilliant. It worked. It's not the only way, it's a way that I find works. I saw Mylan had her hand up. Where'd she go? Mylan, did you have a question? Now she disappeared. Where'd you go? Okay. We'll see if she comes back. Any comments? Any other ideas? Anything you can... Oh, there you are, Marlon. What's your question? You can unmute.
Actually, Rob, it is not a question, and I just wanted to say thank you first of all because of this webinar, and maybe you should add one small thing that you did not mention in your presentation. You covered colors, you covered size, you covered fonts, you covered all the practical things, and all of those things that we can just adopt and to create. But one thing that we cannot maybe copy is your sense of humor. Maybe adding that to your future presentations, because we can have the greatest slides in the world, but the way you presented this, being lighthearted, being fun, added so much and kind of worked like a mnemonic technique, because I remember a certain slide because of a joke that you told.
That's it.
So that was really excellent. Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you so much. And I do have available on my website, I am selling parts of my sense of humor. If you go to the site, Act Today. One thing, I'll tell you something. A long time ago, I realized after sitting through 2 or 3 years of very boring talks at conferences that everybody says, if you want your students to learn, you need to engage them. They need to have fun and be enjoying. And I said, I actually stood up finally at one and said, so why the hell are you boring us now? I said, don't we as teachers deserve to be entertained also? We're your students today. So I like to have fun. I like to be silly. I like to have a sense of humor. It lightens everything up. And now, the greatest thing, I didn't go into it because everybody's talking to it, but the other thing I'll add in the future is storytelling. You tell a story, usually tell a story at the beginning. I really didn't have time with this. So, but that's important. Open up about yourself. Have fun. If you have fun, chances are they'll probably have fun. Did you all have fun?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what matters. So you had fun and you learned something. Some people aren't comfortable with a sense of humor. Some people are just boring. That's the way it is. I'm an entertainer. Teaching comes second.
Yeah, you
I
are
am
a man with personality. Yes, that's
a huge
this
personality.
level of presentation skills. Personalities matter. Yes, so
Yeah.
a sense of
Yeah.
humor is just one of the elements of your wonderful personality.
Thank you.
If
I would like
everything fails,
to make a
mother-in-law
question.
jokes work perfectly.
I would like to make a question.
Yes.
I work with kids with special needs, and literature is the tool that I use. I'm constantly working with books or poems or things that may encourage them to forget their situation, and sometimes their poor living conditions. So I would like to know what things could I add to my presentations to make them even more powerful.
How old are they first?
Sorry?
How old are they? What's the age range?
Between 8 and 17.
All right, between 8 and 17. And um, what's the average problem that they tend to have? Is there like an average?
Yes, they have autism. Sometimes some of them have seizures. They start shaking. And some of them have like social panic attacks. So maybe they are working and then just they start crying because they get some kind of breakdown.
Yeah. I do know one thing. If they have seizures, be very careful with motion and changing colors. That's about as far as I know. I would check. I don't know if we can figure this out. There was a talk in IATEFL Poland, Warsaw. I think it was 4 years ago, where the speaker did a wonderful job talking about dyslexia. She would know more about this. I can't for the life of me remember her name, but she did. I had no interest in this at all, and I was fascinated by just the choices of color of the paper makes a difference. So she knows more about these. I really don't know what to do with autistic or, even learning disabilities. So I would consult with somebody who does know. And she was marvelous. If we can find out who that was, it was a great talk, Luciana. I don't know if you remember it.
I remember that during one of the conferences there was a presentation about dyslexia, but I don't remember the exact year. Yes, and I
Yeah.
didn't need the exact year, but I may try to figure out.
Okay. Yeah, if we could, because she would be somebody to have talk again, too, because it was marvelous. It was a great talk. There's a hint for you. Okay? Anything else?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, colors are definitely triggers, and, there's a lot to it. I didn't study it. I'm not a psychologist or anything, so I'd hate to say the wrong thing. Consult an expert, but good luck to you. And, that's great that you're doing that. What else? So,
Just happiness.
yay! Great.
Yes, we've all enjoyed your wonderful webinar, and so you have recovered this long lost element of fun
Yes.
in our teaching learning activities. Yes,
Yeah.
because as I keep repeating, to be a good teacher you have to be a good learner. Yes, I feel like a successful learner who moreover enjoys the learning process.
Yeah.
That's the experience of tonight.
Good. Well, I hope you all learned.
Yes.
And I expect to see all of you in September in Poznan. Come and say hello. And be back here on June 8th